And that means if you're an educator, by the way, any educators in the house? Raise your hand if you're an educator. You are a winner. Okay, because you're making change. And we have some wonderful individuals. It has been such a great day. And I'm just so excited because, now, by the way, there's like a whole lot of conversation happening over on this side. Adam. Okay, see how long it took? I know how you were when you were in school. How many Adams was that? Like 6 Adams? Okay. All right, listen. He's from Flipgrid. He's from Microsoft, so I totally forgive him. Okay, because they're doing some wonderful things in the name of our youth. So I have mentioned some individuals. Did we not? How many of you were here since this morning, by the way? Wonderful. You've been hanging with us. Have you enjoyed it?
All right.
Have you learned something?
Okay.
Okay, winning and learning. Have you eaten anything? Okay, because I forgot all about the eating. I don't know how I forgot about the eating. But I had to go out there and eat something because, I'm all excited. And I had to remind myself that it's also about wellness, right?
Facts.
Right. And I didn't want to fall out here. So as individuals are trickling in and out, because that's exactly what Digital Hollywood is all about. How many of you, this is your first time? Okay. Well, welcome to Digital Hollywood. Isn't it wonderful?
Yeah.
I mean, 3 days of going in and out of some powerful presentations. And I always say, whenever you come in, always try to meet people you do not know. Sit with someone you do not know. In fact, I do it when I go to a conference and I see people I know, I actually wave and turn around and walk the other way. It's not the nicest thing to do, but it's the only way you can get to know other people, right? And so there's a lot going on all over this entire campus. And the reason why we're here is because of the brainchild and the knowledge and the genius of one man called Victor Harwood. Right. And Victor Harwood, yeah, you tell him, come on, listen, we need to give him a hand. He's not in here, he's everywhere. He's walking around. He made this thing happen, and he didn't just start now. He started the thing over 2 decades ago. And he is, I think, the leader of any producer who can put on an event where individuals come, particularly from the world of Hollywood and AV and VR and entertainment and tech, and now embarking on merging all of that with education. He said to me this summer, Jackie, I don't just want to make a difference, I want to be a difference. And he is making and being a difference and causing us to be here. It has been a journey. Now, when I started working with him, after my 30 years of being in classrooms and education and schools and all of that, and now I'm very mobile and I'm just out everywhere, I found out how much hard work it is. No one can just pull this thing off because you're dealing with people. Anybody know about dealing with people? Not kids, people, grown people. They don't call you back. They're busy, they do not respond, and you have to email to death, and then they pretend like they didn't get the email. All of those things happen, and you still have a date and a facility to fill. I mean, let me tell you, Victor Harwood has been a mentor to me. And once I told him this summer I was kind of available and free, he was like, let's go. And we've been going, and we have not stopped yet. So it is just an honor for him to ask me to help facilitate thought leaders and educators and all of you like Hollywood people coming together and really just aligning our moral purpose. And our moral purpose is to build young people. How many of you believe that?
Yeah.
And I often say, it is a calling. And some people should not have picked up the phone. Okay. I didn't mean to say that. I don't know where that came from. This is what happens when you turn 50. So today is about education and Hollywood and coming together. But again, we've heard some great speakers, and today, right now, we have at this session, innovation, partnerships, and investment in education. And many of you have heard STEM and STEAM going around, and this is where we are. The new jobs and careers for our young people, first of all, they're not old like me. The millionaires and billionaires are very young. They're like under 25, and they're coming up with stuff. My son is 13, he's coming up with stuff all the time. I'm like, hold that down. because they're excited about change, and they're excited about building and creating and innovating, and so our schools have to change.
That's right.
They've got, any educators, you guys, guess what? It's got to change. Because they are coming out of a totally, they only knew, the ones that grew up in Gen Z only know social media, only know this world that we're in now. They don't remember or know the one before. So this is the time for change, and it's exciting. So I have some wonderful individuals that are on this panel, and we're going to start off. I'm going to just share Todd Johnson, President and Chief Executive Officer, Beverly Hills Chamber of Commerce. Please give him a hand. Raise your hand, sir. And Tim Greenlee, President and Chairman of the Board of the Boy Scouts of America. That's the other bald guy. See? I'm sorry. Slick. We call them Slicks.
It's 3 in a row here.
Chris Backus, co-founder of Limitless STEM Initiative. Oh, another Slick. Okay. It's just happening. Okay. Oh, well, it stops with you. All right. And Derek Steele, Assistant Director of Operations and Finance, Social Justice Learning Institute. Let's give him a hand. So, before we kind of fully go through and get started, I want to do something that I was going to wait till later, because this gentleman is here. I invited Mr. Todd Johnson, who's on the end, who is now, of course, the president of the Chamber of Commerce of Beverly Hills. But when I met him, I was a principal, and I knew in Compton. How many of you heard of Compton? Okay. Well, I survived. And when you can come out of working in school districts that are challenging and tough, and have 40% foster youth, and about 20% homelessness, and dealing with parents who've been incarcerated, and dealing with children who are hungry, and you have to still run a school, you sit sometimes and cry, and you say, how can I do this? Because these people are looking at me, wanting me to make a difference. And one evening, I went with my husband to, how many of you heard of Laurie's Prime Rib Restaurant in Beverly Hills? Okay, I've been there once or twice. And I told my husband, I want to go there. We don't have a lot of money, but let's go and eat all we can, because this might be it. And we took my 2-year-old son. I'm not alone. Some of you know this story. You have the same story. This is the truth. I brought my son. He was very little at the time. And he was walking around eating on this steak that costs at least $45. And you know, I said, he doesn't even know what he's doing. So I began to think, my scholars, I call them scholars because I believed if you've spoken to them, they will rise to that occasion. And I said, I wonder how many of them would have this opportunity. And I thought maybe most of them would not. So my husband looked at me and said, I know what you're going to do. You're going to call the restaurant. I said, yes, I am. And the next day I did. And I called, and of course, you know, you get someone who answers the phone who's supposed to block you. And she said, who are you? I said, I'm Dr. Sanderlin. I said, I'd like to speak to your general manager. She said, does he know that you're calling? I said, yes, he does. Right, I don't think he knew, or I just figured he should be expecting somebody to call.
Yeah, facts.
And you know, I got through. You might have to fire. Did you fire that one? Okay, because you're not supposed to let people through. But she let me through. I guess it was the sound of my voice. I said, yes, I'm here to speak to him. Maybe she thought it was a complaint. She didn't want to deal with that. And the next voice I heard was, you know, he was out of concern. Yes, you know, because at this point, who are you? I said, I just want to quickly say, this is the moment, everybody look at somebody and say, you got to think quick.
Gotta think what he told you. Yeah.
And I said, I just wanted to call to tell you we had a wonderful time. It was just beautiful, and I knew there was an intelligent, handsome person who was overseeing this facility. I knew that was going to work at some level. And he said, you know, who are you? I said, I'm Dr. Sanderlin, and I, you know, work in Compton. But I know you don't know where that is. He said, I know exactly where it is. You're off the 105 freeway. I said, I bet you've never been here. And he said, I'm coming. Make a long story short, very short. This gentleman pulled up to my school in a beautiful sports car. He got out. I could smell his cologne before he even got to me. Cufflinks, sharp, clean. And I did not know what I was going to talk to him about. Look at somebody else, say, you may not know.
You may not know.
But sometimes you don't need to know. He came to me. He says, what are you going to do with me now? I said, I don't know, but just come to my office. And I said to him, and I'm just going to say this, and I hope it doesn't offend anyone, but most of you would know this. I said, listen, my students all believe that every, white man has probably been rich all their life. He said, let me tell you my story. And he told me about how he saved coins and jars and kept them and saved many coins and just grew up and then started, he didn't grow up with a silver spoon in his mouth. And then he started working, and he grew up in the food and in beverage business, and he did every job in the restaurant. I hope I'm not wearing you all out. There's a purpose that I'm telling you this story. And then he became the general manager of Laurie's Prime Rib Restaurant. And I said, that's it. Come with me around to every classroom, and would you please tell your story? And he did. I know this man was busy, and he went around to every classroom. And he entertained all the questions from my scholars, even the inappropriate ones that said, how much money do you make? I said, I'm going to kill you. The kids can embarrass you. You can't do nothing, I said, don't ask him that. It was too late, And the next thing I know, he was about to leave, and I said to him, stand up, just a few. I said, I just really appreciate you, but I know you have somewhere to go. And he said, but wait a minute, what about you all coming to the restaurant? I said, sir, we don't have no money. And we don't have a budget to go to Laurie's. And he said, and I'll never forget this, and this is the part that I might cry. He said, you don't need any money. You know me.
Here you go. Partnership.
And in a couple of weeks, we were on our way to Beverly Hills in a rickety yellow school bus, going down La Cienega. And he told me, Jackie, when you get 10 minutes away, call me. This is a true story. I didn't know why, but I called him. I said, we're 10 minutes away. We pulled up, and there was a red carpet from the front door to the parking lot. And his entire staff standing out with their outfits on, just ready to receive us. And a sign, I'll never forget the sign that said, closed for private party. And one of the scholars said to me, who's the private? They closed. They closed. Why did you do this? I said, we the private party. I told all my scholars, dress up and wear church clothes, because I knew they understood church clothes. And they wore dresses and, all kind of cologne that they shouldn't have been wearing. And there's one boy, he came out, Dr. Branch, with a suit, a hat, and a cane. And no socks. I said, oh, I didn't tell you to do that. I said, no. He said, this is all I got. I said, well, come on. And Todd and his whole staff came, and we clutched arms, and we walked down that red carpet. And every paparazzi was out there taking pictures of us and made us feel special. And I'm going to just end it by saying this. That was 10 years ago. Every single year, this man called me and brought my scholars back. Every single year. I never had to call him and ask him for anything. And we not only got a chance to eat there, he showed us and took us a tour of the entire restaurant. He taught them how to make a spinning bowl salad. They wore a chef's coat. They saw the kitchen, and they finished up eating sundaes, and they brought us out shrimp. And every time I saw one shrimp on a child's plate, I said, you better eat that shrimp, because this thing is expensive. This is a partnership we cannot mess up. And I just want you all to, I want you to come here, please. Please come, Todd. Let's give Todd a big round of applause. A standing ovation he needs, really. I was going to wait till later. I have something for you later, too, but I don't get a chance to always, I tell this story everywhere I go, but he never gets a chance to hear me tell it. And sometimes it's opportunities, and I hope the rest of the panel does not mind that I took this time to do this, because sometimes you have to do things when you know the opportunity presents itself. This is a picture of the scholars with him there. And I've had this and haven't been able to give it to him. But I want you to know this meant more to me. And it wasn't until this time that I learned the value of partnerships. I love you, Todd. You changed my life. I'm going around the country speaking about this, and I feel it's a mission. I believe it is a mission. I think it's a ministry, to be quite honest, because I'm trying to share with every single educator that I know that partnerships are not just important, but they are essential. That's right. That's because we cannot do this work alone. Do you remember this day? So how many of you want to go to Laurie's tonight? Come on! Can we get a discount? No. See, I've already ruined the partnership. That's how it works. Okay, you all. Did somebody get that picture? I hope somebody got that picture. Okay, thank you so much. Let's give them another hand. Tim Greenlee, Chris Backus, and Derek Steele. Derek, I'd like for you to kind of kick us off, kind of give us an idea of what you're doing right now to really help bolster STEM and STEAM in schools and within the community.
You know, I think even before we get to STEM and STEAM, touching on a piece of what you were talking about as far as the need for particular types of students, particularly for our organization, the Social Justice Learning Institute, young men of color, and the situations that they are in, and the cycles of disadvantage that they exist in as well, where the work that we do can help to assist in partnership to get them to the next level. We know for a fact that, you know, from the data that shows, those students who actually don't graduate from high school directly go into the school to prison pipeline. And why? It's because when they don't graduate from high school, they don't have a lot of the opportunities in order to do things, even just to live life, right? So what are the opportunities that we can provide for them to not only put yourself on a path towards graduation, but actually elevate yourself out of survival mode into a thriving space into your life? And the way you do that is you disrupt those systems of disadvantage through what to them seems like randomness, right? And situated opportunities that are brought to their life. And it seems like randomness to them because it's randomly I'm put into this class, randomly I'm meeting these people, randomly I'm going on these trips. But it's actually a systematic approach from our standpoint of how to actually elevate them beyond the systematic disadvantage that they had. So STEM and STEAM is a very important piece of that, because it's not just putting them on a path, but putting them on a path to where? And what opportunities can they actually go towards in order to break the chains of the vicious cycles that they've been a part of in their lives. And so myself, I went to Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland. HBCU. I was an electrical computer engineering major. And so the work that we like to push them towards when it comes to not just opportunities for internships out of high school or even into the medical field as well, there is a knowledge base of things you need in order to even walk into those doors and walk into those facilities. And that is a basis in science, a basis in technology, a basis in an understanding of what engineering looks like, and creative mind, right? The arts part of this is a very big deal too, because that creativity, it spurs the innovation that can actually come out of our communities. And you know, in communities of color, there's a lot of innovation, and I can go, and I won't, but I can go on and on about the different types of entrepreneurial efforts that have come from our community just because we're trying to make ends meet, you know? So how do you actually connect those dots to the things you know, to the opportunities that exist? And that's part of the work that we do at SJLI to connect those dots.
Wonderful, thank you. And so, Chris, how would you say, because I know you're doing a whole lot with robotics and so forth, what practical things can be done in schools?
Well, I think you guys hit it on the nail when you started with partnerships and innovative partnerships who don't look at, or who look at the landscape and say, why don't our students have that access to those same opportunities? Limitless STEM Initiative, that's exactly what we do. We come into a city and come into a communities that I'm from. I grew up in Inglewood, California, went to Westchester High School, USC Entrepreneur Program, and got my master's in education from Cal State Dominguez Hills. Currently a counselor at Santa Monica College, working with black and brown students, about 1,700 students in my program. And we started this initiative with zero money. It was just an effort about 7 or 8 years ago to make sure our students, or my students, because it's from my community, have the same opportunities as students on this side of the hill of Mulholland have that are coming to from a resource standpoint. But as some of you all who may be educators in here know, that there's plenty of roadblocks to accomplish that in school districts. I started working at Westchester High School, my alma mater, as a coach, and I was a playground supervisor, then I was a substitute teacher, then I was a counselor. And you know, for 30 years I've been in the educational system, and I got out of it because I was frustrated with the systematic approach that they keep things the same. And so when we presented these opportunities to school districts, they were like, yeah, that's great, yeah, that's great, yeah, that's great, robotics, STEM education, that's great, but we don't have the funding, or we can't, you know, curriculum time doesn't allow for it, et cetera, et cetera. And so we went back to the drawing board. I would say, okay, we're not going to give them any excuse. So we went and found the money. So, you know, one of the first ones that we did was with Dr. Jackie and some of the board members of Inglewood Unified, and we said, look, we have the program and we have the money. You can't say no now. And so we took $25,000 from Verizon and $25,000 from AT&T based on the relationships that we've created over the year. And, you know, they were having the same problems getting into those school districts, so we became the conduit to make sure that we partner with the schools, bring the funding, bring the curriculum. No excuse that you say, well, we don't have curriculum. Well, we have certified curriculum that are meeting all of the standards that you say that they need to meet. And there is no excuse. You will take these robots. And Dr. J, she took them. She made sure that they took them. So we identified about 3 or 4 schools that we launched and piloted with, and we've been working with the middle schools, elementary schools, and we do some after-school programs. We're expanding now with after-school all-stars created.
Compete too.
We absolutely do. So what we do is if any of you guys are familiar with the AAU programs with basketball and some of the AYSO with soccer, you know, they have elite teams that they get sponsors for, and they travel around the country with sponsors like Nike and people like that. So we did the same thing. So we incubated an elite team from all the students at the schools that we work with and the after-school programs, and we said, let's take the top 7 students and let's put some money behind them. So we traveled in some robotics competitions the first year. We also take our students from all of our programs to Burbank every semester in a local competition, regional competition. And so we just took those students and gave them the resources. First time 4 years ago, they finished top 10 out of 28. The second year they finished, I think it was number 5 in the regional. And then the last year they finished number 2 regional and number 4 in the world. And they only meet 1 day a week on Saturdays. They were competing with high schools from around the world, China, Africa, all places around the world. And our students are only meeting 1 day a week on Saturdays at my church, because I do the after school program and the elite program at my church. Again, innovative partnerships. We have space at a lot of our churches in our community that are going unused. So we created a whole STEM program at our church on weekends, bring those students in, put money behind them, and they competed, knowledge base. We've got 2 students who from that program now are at Chapman University. One student is graduating from UC Santa Cruz in gaming, biotechnology, environmental science and engineering. So we just need, again, to level the playing field and bring to these school districts, our school districts, that there will be no excuse for our students not to get the same resources, and challenge these Fortune 500 companies that have money just sitting there to say, if you're not going to give it directly to the school, me as a nonprofit, let me take it to the school and garner that partnership that you need to make sure that it's successful. So that's in a snapshot, a little bit of what we do. A lot more of what we do, and I have some information if anybody wants to connect with me so we can spread the gospel of STEM and innovation and entrepreneurship, because we incubate businesses out of this too, and we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Thank you. And spreading the gospel of STEM. I love that. And thank you for saying challenging these corporations. We also should challenge the faith-based organizations that are in these communities, because in every single one of our communities who owe back to give back and to help us do this work. So thank you for that. All right, the Boy Scouts of America is doing some really great things. I think I'm on the board, right?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Yes, you are. So let me give you a sense of what Scouting is today, and specifically about STEM, and my specific role, because I'm president chairman of the board of LA. I haven't quite gone to the national yet, but thank you, Jackie.
Oh, okay, I gave you that. Sorry.
Of LA. So to give you a sense of our operation, I mean, we service just under 20,000 kids, just under 10,000 volunteers, and we do it all with 40 paid staff. Wow. Yeah, that should get a gasp. So be really nice if you ever meet my staff. Be really nice to them. Yeah, so it's totally volunteer driven. And to give you a sense of who we serve, over 60% of the families in our area are at or below the poverty line. So we are critically needed, and for people who have studied the long-term impact of Scouting in people's lives, and it's Scouting, by the way, I say Scouting, I don't say Boy Scouts anymore, because it's fully inclusive of anything, everything you can imagine. We are fully inclusive, including women. And I'm so excited to say that. And by the way, if you see my girl units, you don't want to be a boy unit, because those ladies are absolutely, yeah, they're the top. So we've had STEM in Scouting for a very long time, as you can imagine. I mean, anywhere from astronomy to robotics, soil and water conservation, oceanography, keep going down the list. We've been doing that. But what's happening is now we're moving it from being on this, what I call a side option, into the mainstream. Because, you know, it's funny, I saw a parent recently at a major event, and she had her young son with her who was about 5, big kid, but he was 5. And she said, "Oh, honey, are you interested in becoming a scout? You can get merit badges and blah, blah, blah." That's exactly what he heard, blah, blah, blah. And his eyes glazed over. And I looked at her and I said, can I suggest you something a little different on marketing to a 5-year-old? And I said, I looked at him and I said, his name, by the way, his name was Scott, which is too funny.
My son.
Her son's name's Scott too. But I turned and said, "Hey, Scott, how would you like to shoot off a rocket?" And his eyes are about this big. And I'm like, okay, we got him hooked now. Part of what I'm saying with that is that we as an organization have cultivated for a very long time STEM, but I call it STEM inside and outside. So we all know how to, I mean, there are things done in a classroom, of course, but you got to go outside. You got to go out and do it and touch it. So I've got oceanography classes where they get to actually don scuba gear and go down and see it. So it's a classroom under the water. Incredible opportunities like that. As I mentioned to Chris, I said, by the way, we also have lots of facilities. So if you're running something where you need a facility, because you've got kids, and especially one that has housing, you know, industrial-sized kitchens, et cetera, rock climbing walls, I mean, as you can imagine, Scouts have it. So give me a call, trust me, we can work on things. But we so vitally need the partnerships, because partnerships is what makes it work. You know, National BSA has many MOUs with Boys and Girls Club, YMCA. Yeah, it's great. But where the rubber meets the road is locally.
Right.
And that's where we can all help each other and work together in common. Because if I've got somebody, you know, like a Chris who knows how to deliver the program, great. Then I've got kids and I've got a facility. Let's go. I don't need to reinvent it. Thank you very much. And so those are the kind of things that just, what we want to be able to do is constantly provide these services, particularly to the underrepresented. Because, look, any affluent kid can get access to anything you want. But these kids need our help. You know, I think it was once said, you know, there is no issue greater than the tissue of life, and there is no need more holy than the hand outstretched. These hands are out there. We just need to reach them.
Thank you. Wow, that was powerful. Todd, talking about partnerships, and I already shared our story, but tell me about what you're doing now in the name of partnerships, being in your new role, a big role, President of the Chamber of Commerce of Beverly Hills. What's going on there?
Well, yeah, it's a different role. I've been a big believer my whole life about partnerships and surrounding yourself with people you want to be with or be like, and I've been pretty good at that. I can go hire people that are much smarter and frankly can do the job way better than me, and that's what we do. And we're in the role that I do now as a Chamber of Commerce president. We certainly strive to find these unique businesses to come into Beverly Hills. And the thing that I appreciated with us and what we do is, you know, you got children that are 10 or 15 miles away, that a completely different environment, but there's no reason that they can't come be in Beverly Hills if they want to. You know, it's just about, it's about being successful. My goal was always in the restaurant world, now even as a chamber, is I tell my staff we have to simply make sure people leave feeling better than when they came. And if we do that, we're successful. And we do over 200 events a year of all kinds of partnerships with, well, frankly, everything you can almost imagine. And I also think it's about an attitude, and it's about your energy level, and it's about, I mean, I think frankly, the best person on the planet is my wife. And she's a chaplain at UCLA. So she deals with 2 or 3 deaths a week of children. So what I deal with when I was in the restaurant business or even now is simply people that act like they lost a child because they want to sit at that table instead of this table, or they're upset because they don't like my hairline, or I mean, pick a reason. And and if we're able to be as empathetic with people like that, and partnerships, as my wife is with the parents of her 2-year-old who just died, you simply can't lose. So it's really about developing these relationships, which that's what I am good at. And I'm astonished of the quantity of money that is out there and that is available to help organizations. And it's a matter of putting them together, which is what I try to do. I mean, no, that's what I do. Yeah. And if you work with someone like Jackie, how do you go wrong? I mean, that was a great, we had a lot of fun doing that. So, and I think there's a lot more to come to do. And I think what all you guys do is really unique stuff. I'm coming at it from a business side because I work with all these businesses and Rodeo Drive and all this visionary, you know, thing, but people are people, and it's really a matter of developing that relationship that you can do anything. You truly can do anything, and that's what I strive to do, and try to be half as cool as you. So,
So I want to ask anyone who would like to answer this, because I drive past a lot of schools that have, you know, big banners, and they say STEM, they say STEAM, but I really wonder if they're in partnership. How can they find out what you're doing, and how can you help them?
I'm glad you asked the question, because I wish there were more Dr. Jackies. Yeah. You know,
my husband would have an issue with
that. That open up the doors
Thank you.
for a partnership for people to be able to come in. And I think what you have to lead with is empathy, right? And when I say that, it's really seeking an understanding of what those schools and the leaders at those schools are actually dealing with on a day-to-day basis, not just with bringing the solutions for those students, but you know, the interactions that they have with the parents and grandparents, foster parents, you know, the interactions that they're dealing with the bureaucracy in their particular job. Maybe wanting to bring certain types of solutions to the table, but for some odd reason the school board doesn't want to approve certain projects. Like, really having a really open heart to what those leaders are dealing with,
Yeah.
and then how what your solution that you have and the tools that you have can fit within to create a win-win situation for those schools.
Let me just say, and for all you educators that are here, please listen to the partnership side. Oftentimes we're looking from our perspective, but they have a perspective that they're dealing with about also trying to get into your school.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be honest, sometimes you guys call and nobody answers
Nobody
the phone.
answers the phone. Yeah.
That's right.
Now,
Or
if
I was
email.
about to go
you-
there.
Or email.
Okay,
I was definitely about to go there.
See?
You know, but not giving up, because you do have that empathy
Right.
about what's actually happening at that school.
Yeah.
So yeah, you may start with a phone call. Yeah, you might send an email, but you may need to show up.
Yeah.
You know, and figure out who to actually talk to. You know, so with our Urban Scholars program, even though we have the support from the school district level, the principals run those schools.
That's right.
And if you can't have a meeting with this principal, because the principal is also running a classroom and this and the third, and the meeting that you may have scheduled may have got canceled, which means you got to show up maybe 2 or 3 times that week just to have a discussion about what you bring to the table.
Yeah.
You know, that's what you got to do in order to make sure that we're creating those opportunities, again, from getting those students, because that's what this is all about.
Right.
Everybody, the common ground that we're trying to create a win-win around is getting those students to the next level, right?
Right.
And so how do we make sure that the tools that we bring to the table fit within what the school culture is trying to do, but also how can we transform that culture
Right.
by bringing being a bridge to that future that we want to bring together.
Okay, yes,
I
Chris?
agree. I give an example, like when we initiated with Inglewood, the 2 strategies you can use, the push strategy or the pull strategy, a marketing terms, business terms, where if you're marketing your company, same thing. You know, how would you actually get to the consumer? In our case, the students would be the people who would use the program and the things like that. Push strategy is you use the district and they say, well, you have to implement this and it needs to be implemented by blank, blank, and blank at the principal's meeting or whatever that they do facilitate top down, right? It has to flow down to the students. The other way is to push it through where you get some students and some teachers that are actually engaged with some of these programs before it even comes to the district or the school. And that's literally what happened with us when we got into LAUSD, which is a story in and of itself. The way we got into LAUSD,
LAUSD?
yeah, and I'm not ashamed. I grew up in LAUSD and, like I said, taught and was a substitute teacher and counselor there. Fauché Learning Center, K through 12 school there. I was a counselor there and did my internship hours there. And the parents and the teachers also need to be sometimes that grassroots opportunity for them to push that absolutely or pull it through the system. So we had a teacher that we actually recruited to actually start teaching our curriculum outside on Saturdays, on the weekends. And then once she started teaching it on the weekend, she was like, well, why am I not doing this in my school with my students at Audubon? And so she took that curriculum and she presented it to her teacher, her principal and her assistant principal and said, come down on Saturday and see what we're doing. Once they saw it, they got it, and a light went off. It's like, oh my gosh, this is simple, and we can actually create an elective around this.
So you're saying, different avenues.
Different
that you can
avenues.
go through. I called a school district, and I will not say the name of that school district recently, and I said, I'm calling with some community partnerships that are free. I mean,
Yes.
free is like the key word.
Exactly.
The person told me, we have enough community partnerships.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, can you
crazy.
believe that? I was
Oh,
just
I can
like,
believe
I
it.
got to work on me
Unfortunately.
getting angry at people. I'm working on that. But I was like, who has enough community partnerships? But then it came to me, everybody doesn't get it.
That's right. And you spoke about the agendas. You got to understand what the agendas are each semester, each classroom, and specifically for that principal, because, you know, they're at-will employees. So principals, unlike teachers who have the union that protects them in certain situations, principals and assistant principals, if they didn't come up through the teacher union rank, are at-will employees, so they can be let go every single semester, every single year, if they're not hitting certain metrics, right? So that's a lot of pressure. So you got to understand that when you approach them, that they are under that type of pressure too. It's not an excuse, but it's a reason, and kind of preach towards or put your pitch towards understanding what problems you're solving for them at that school. Even as a principal, obviously you're solving problems for the students, but let's keep it real. You know, if a person is trying to feed their family and they've got a, nice $100,000 job, which a lot of principals make, you don't want to disrupt that cash flow. And I'm gonna keep it, we're gonna talk as real as we can on that. And so people, self-preservation is a part of it. And so when you come to a principal, understand that might be one of the issues. See how long they've been at the school, how much equity they have in the district, how much they can actually push some things through themselves. And then also, who are their advocates at the district level and in the PTA level, the parent-teacher, the teacher level, because you know what it is. It's us against them sometimes in these school districts, where once the teachers get on one side, the principals get on another side, now you got to fight, and you're trying to just get your program there for kids.
Right, I know. So with a couple more minutes left, I'm sorry, and this is just really getting good right now. How would you say, really, also that you would include more partnerships with schools that are just are causing, I think, even roadblocks for themselves?
So to address Chris's comment, because I think it's a really good one, I think when you walk in the door, you have to come in thinking solution, as opposed to, let me just sell you something.
Right.
Because they got a lot of stuff on their menus, they don't need one more. So you come in offering a solution. For example, in our case, we walk into a school and we'll say, we would love to, sit down and have an open parent night, kids night, and they're like, why? Well, do you understand that the higher percentage of scouts that you have in your school, you will have a lower percentage of discipline issues? And then you stop talking. I want to see any teacher say, no, I really don't want that. And then I got to ask them about their job afterwards. But when you talk about having things like when you see a banner up or something of this nature, those tend to be the better operating schools anyway. Having said that, and I know everybody wants to talk about getting efficiencies, right, by having more throughput coming in an area. I use a different term, which is let's all work together to avoid and eliminate tribalism. Because you hear it everywhere. My school's better than your school, mine is better than this. Yes. You certainly hear it in Washington, D.C., no comment on that. We have done a lot of things to break down tribalism, where, for example, we do some external teaching on weekends. We now invite all the surrounding councils to come in and participate as well. We have one event that used to get, a couple hundred. Now we get several thousand. Why? Because we happen to include 7 councils. That's over 100 miles when you think of that. So what we're trying to do is, again, use that one really good school or one really good program, leave it there, but then invite everybody else to come see it and then fill it. And then then even if you have great students coming off from that, you say, hey, why don't you mentor these guys coming in from another area? That's the way it works.
Well, thank you. And Todd, I'd like for you to give us the last nugget of wisdom here before I can open it up for a couple of Q&As.
Let's see, wisdom. Well, I think when you are going out for partnerships, because myself, I'll have a lot of people that call and want, what is it they want? What is the perception that they're looking for? And I certainly, I think it's important to come in, as all of you have said, with this idea and put yourselves in this, because again, I'm just astonished of the quantity of money that's out there that's just needing to be put together with the right programs and the right people, and it is all about people, and it's all about taking these kids, all right, because this little girl, I remember her saying to me she was going to be president, and I said, well, I will vote for you, especially now. So but
one of them gave you a $1 bill. That was all.
Yeah, I
go for a tip. Give him a tip.
Give me a tip.
Did you keep that? I think you framed that.
I still have the $1. Yeah, I put up. Yeah.
He said, Dr. Jackie, you told us to give a tip.
Yeah. But I just think that I guess I would just say, obviously, never give up. And it's just if this door closes, there's another one over there. You just got to go after. And it's all about just sticking. And what I do is try to connect the type of business that I know, you know, LVMH, these guys, that guy is the second wealthiest man in the world. They bought Brooks Brothers on Rodeo Drive for $250 million, $250 million for a building. These kinds of companies want to invest in communities and want to invest in different programs, and it's just a matter of meeting the right person, and that's certainly what I try to do, is connect you with them or vice versa. So never give up.
That's interesting. Right.
Wow, that was a great way to end. Let's give them a hand. And this is something else I've learned, and I'll tell it to all of my educator friends out there, that not only want to help, they have to.
Yes, yes.
They have to. It's a tax, that's my 2 cents, that's right. It's a tax write-off, and it's a win-win. And it's also reputation.
Gotta deliver.
I spoke at different companies this year, and I'll just give you an example. I spoke at the Walgreens Leadership Conference this summer, and spoke to every CEO, and the owner of Walgreens invited me, who's the 57th richest man in the world. And I listened to him tell all of his team and says, we have to engage the community. And they are oftentimes calling me and a lot of other individuals saying, how can I do this? Where? But they're looking for what? A worthy cause.
Right.
So we heard some words today. We heard want. You got to know what you want. And you'd be surprised about how many people do not know what they want. They'll say what I need, but this is a very different thing.
Yeah.
What you want is a different conversation. Effort, it takes work. You coming here, showing up, was a big deal for you. So 90% of it is just showing up and putting some skin in the game, because it's just not going to drop in your lap. It's like, why would we partner with you? And any smart investor is going to look for a return. So everybody say opportunities.
Opportunities
And access.
and access.
Okay, that's the 2 key words that have to be part of what you do. That opens up the door. Also, relationships. Don't run after partnerships without understanding relationships. Todd and I, all of these are my friends, all of them right here, but I'm just mentioning Todd. We started off talking about partnerships, but I continue to keep that relationship with him. I didn't know he was going to become what he is now. I didn't know. You never know, and that's never your business. Your point is just to have a good, authentic, organic relationship, and you never know where it goes. And it's all good, right? And then break the chains. That's right. Listen, sometimes we're our own worst enemy.
Yes.
So find the secretary at your school, educators, and tell them to be nice to everybody who calls. And tell them to pick up the phone and welcome people. How many people have been in an office where it's not welcoming? It doesn't look welcoming, nobody cleaned up, papers are everywhere. Listen, that's a bad sign. People turn right around. So we have to really start just seeking out relationships with everyone. Any questions? Yes. Can you speak loud, because we don't have a microphone out there? The Khan Academy. Have you used the Khan Academy?
Yeah.
It's free, it's online, math lessons.
Yes.
The point is that part of the classroom structure, and I'm wondering, I was curious, I know about it, having had success.
I want to repeat the question. She's asking.
About the Khan Academy, they turn you
Khan
off.
Manor?
They're very severe here. So
Sorry about that.
I think I'm the only
What
mic.
did I say?
You want to come up to this mic or just try that mic?
Hello, hello, hello.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. She asked about the Khan Academy, and had we used, or had anyone used it? Yes, in my current position as a counselor, we have a lot of math at Santa Monica College. We have students who need math tutoring, et cetera, et cetera. We use it we give it as a resource, a few other online resources to prep for, to remediate or to get skills built up. And so we've used that a lot. We've used some of the other online portals also, like code.org for because we code in C and C++ and also Python with third graders all the way up to college age. So we actually add that to some of their curriculum and do some remote learning. They're on the computer a lot anyway, so maybe using that as an advantage to build their skill sets at intermediate time with math especially.
Right.
And the advantage of STEM and robotics and coding language is that it is really a mathematical brain that you're developing at the same time. We have students doing 130 lines of code in the 3rd grade, so that's really like writing a mathematical equation, checking the parentheses, the brackets, the semicolons. So really, once we get them hooked on that, then we can translate that over to, okay, you can do the same thing with division, multiplication, et cetera, et cetera. So we do supplement some of the educational learning with some of the online
'Cause
platforms.
how long has Khan's been out? A while?
It's been
Yeah,
out a
it's been
while.
out
It's
a while.
going to be pretty
And it just
validated.
continues to get better and better. each
Anyone
year.
else, because we're about to wrap up, anyone want to add to that?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Ditto.
If you have, okay, any other questions, we're going to have to meet with, right afterward, because we're going to need to set up for our next panel. So let's give our panelists a big round of applause. Thank you so very much.